Hey, want to see something really interesting? I think I found what is simultaneously one of the biggest facelifts I've seen in a car in years, and one of the hardest to recommend new cars on the planet today, in the same car, which is kind of crazy. It's the Audi, hold on a second, this is just ice. It's the Audi RS E-Tron GT Performance facelift, and this is it right here. And just based on living with it, I'm trying to figure out if there's any reason someone would choose this over the performance version of the Porsche that it shares a platform with, the Taycan Turbo GT.
Yeah, and we got to drive and review the Taycan Turbo GT like almost 2 years ago, and so that's what I really want to find out after you're done going through the tech and all the stuff it's like to live with. I want to find out if this is basically just a copy and paste or if it's slightly better, slightly worse. It's cheaper, so it should be just like a little bit worse, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember reviewing the original Taycan and comparing it to the Audi RS and thinking, oh, it kind of, you know, there's some subjective reasons, some aesthetic reasons why you might pick the Audi over the Porsche. But at the end of the day, if you're gonna buy a car like this, for all $200 and something thousand that it costs, and you already know it's gonna be a depreciation machine, why not just spend a little bit more on the Porsche that seems like it's slightly better in every way? I gotta try it. I gotta live with it. Let's go over it. So the basics are that this is the dual motor, all-wheel drive performance sedan from Audi. Good looking car, obviously. So this is about a 100 kilowatt hour battery. It's rated for 280 miles of range. It's making 912 horsepower and about 1,000 Newton meters of torque, sometimes. And it has this new active ride suspension, and it's about $190,000 as it sits here in front of me. So obviously really expensive. And we'll talk about the Taycan in a second, but you know, maybe one of the reasons why you're into this car is because of this facelift. Like I said, one of the bigger facelifts I've seen in any car ever, besides the plus 200 horsepower from the last version. It also has a whole bunch of new forged carbon fiber everywhere. So if you're really into forged carbon fiber, stay tuned because there's a lot more of that. You have these pretty sick looking headlights. I mean, this is a good looking car. I love the wheels on this car actually too. Sits on winter tires, but look at those huge brakes. And then this olive green paint. And then back here on the side, a whole bunch more forged carbon fiber. Then on the back, even more, that dark silver wheel. That's nice. I really like that wheel. Then at the back here, a little bit of an active wing, but then you can actually pop in here and there's a real trunk. And it's a power opening lift gate, so there's actual trunk space back here, which was here in the last gen too, but it's worth noting that they didn't get rid of any of that, so thumbs up to the trunk space. But I will note a couple other interesting things that struck me about this versus the Taycan. One is you do still have this little vent here on the side that the Taycans have. That is functional. That throws up some rocks sometimes, but that's fine. Has different door handles to the Taycan. It's also a woven carbon fiber roof, which I don't think is actually an option at all on the Taycan Turbo GT. So no sunroof, but carbon fiber roof is pretty slick. You have the forged carbon at these end caps on the mirrors with these big turn signal indicators from Audi. And then this is the one charge port, and it's manual, unlike the Taycan, which is like a, you know, power sliding opening version. I was driving around this car for a second and realized that it was still open and I couldn't close it from inside the car. But you do have on each side a manual opening CCS charge port. It'll do up to 320 kilowatts, which isn't terrible, but I wish I could close it from inside the car. So overall, I could see maybe, just maybe, the different aesthetic is worth choosing this over the Porsche. Like, there's a lot of Taycans out there. You don't want to look like blended in. You want this different looking, really good looking car. Maybe, I could see that. Now I got to show you the party trick, which is, it's a lot more than a party trick, as Miles will go over, but this new suspension. So one of the options is when I pull up this door handle, the entire car is going to lift up a couple of inches to let me in the car. I'll see if I can get this ultra wide so you can see this happen. The whole thing just lifted up. It's pretty dramatic actually, and getting into the car, you actually notice it is higher off the ground. And when you do that in a parking lot, people come up to you and they go, what just happened? Your car just lifted up. What was that? It's pretty crazy. I leave it on. You could turn it off if you wanted to, but it is nice. It lets you get into the car when it's higher, and and then it drops back down to its low position when you start driving. And that's just one of many things this new active ride suspension is capable of. But once you're in this car, well, you know how I told you if you liked forged carbon fiber, then you're gonna really like this car, because there's a whole lot more in here for you. In these doors, forged carbon fiber. Up at the dash, forged carbon fiber. All the way around the displays, forged carbon fiber everywhere. So that is a highlight for you if you're into that. You can still see it on the mirror there too. And again, when I drove this car last time, pre-facelift, I like the Audi interior, okay? Not gonna lie. I like the steering wheel. I like these buttons over here. There's a little swipe to control your volume, even though you also have a little volume control touch spinner thing there. I don't know what you call that, but there's a lot of piano black. I wish it wasn't piano black. I'm sure there's an option to make that forged carbon fiber too, but a slot for your phone, 2 cup holders here, and then a little bit of storage, which happens to be a spot to wireless charge your phone, and 2 USB Type-C ports in there. Then there's a whole lot of leather and Alcantara. These seats, which again are heated and cooled. You can see up here, actually, you can heat and cool them at the same time, just like the Porsche. I probably wouldn't do that though. You'll start spinning or something. And then real vents. So this could be, again, a reason to go with the Audi, is because they make different interior choices. And the Porsche has these on-screen controllable vents, and it's honestly kind of a pain, and you end up not really adjusting them very much. These are real vents and real climate control buttons, and that is ideal. So there's something to the slightly better interior thing with the Audi. And then the steering wheel, which is Alcantara and has these not carbon, but it has these paddle shifters on the back here that are actually metal that control how much regen you have. And then there's this boost button over here, which if you press that, gives you 10 seconds of your full 900 something horsepower. And your launch control, obviously, if you enable the boost and then do the launch control, that's when you get maximum power out of this car. And it is ridiculously fast. I don't know if I even had to say that. Obviously, the Porsche's fast too, but these cars are just insanely quick. The Porsche does have a little more power, actually, on paper, and maybe a little quicker, but this car is obviously crazy quick too. Let me show you the back seat though, because hey, maybe you're getting a sedan with a back seat because you do care about the practicality in some degree. I mean, this isn't the ideal, but you can see this really steep shelf here in the back seat. I'm gonna actually get in. It's not very big, but behind my 6'3" driver's position, this is, I guess, just barely acceptable. They actually cut out in the plastic of the seat here to give me a little bit more knee room, but it's not great. Also, because this carbon fiber roof is here, there's not a ton of visibility, so it feels a little bit more claustrophobic, but you do at least get real vents for the AC controls back here and these heated rear seats, which is nice. A little bit of a floor vent as well for you, but not the worst back seat in the world, but not the best. You've seen the Taycan with no back seat with the Weissach back? It's kind of crazy too. I will say, driving and living with this car though, there are a lot of things that are par for the course for the feel of a performance-oriented sedan, that are maybe more performance-oriented than practical. Like this back seat, for example. For some reason, it always takes me 2 tries to get out the back seat. 1, doesn't work. 2, works. Not sure why, but that's always been true. It also doesn't have the most range. It's rated for 280 miles of range, which obviously for a car this expensive is not best in class, but it's not the worst. It's also not the best software. A lot of people who drive Audis know this already. Now, in a performance car, you're probably not thinking too much about the software, and you know, if you get used to finding what you need, it's responsive enough, but it's not beautiful, it's not great. I would basically never use this built-in maps system. Like a lot of other cars are starting to have that Google integration and do this a little better. But this has wireless CarPlay. So what I end up doing immediately is just pairing my iPhone and doing the wireless CarPlay thing. But it will not integrate the navigation instructions from that to the center display or to the HUD, which it's nice to have an HUD, but it doesn't integrate very well with the CarPlay stuff. But if you want to change drive modes, that button down here will let you do that, and it changes the whole theme of the car. So if I switch between efficiency or comfort or dynamic, that's when it lights up a little bit of a different look up here. But that lowers the car. That lets you switch between RS1, RS2, and RS Performance. And if you wanted to adjust RS2, let's say you want to go comfort suspension, but the sportiest acceleration, then you can do that. And this car does make some fun noises in the performance mode. Not like engine noise, but obviously that's something people look for too. So yeah, it's all here. It's just funny that it's such a good car. It's just that it's overshadowed by a slightly better, but slightly more expensive version of a car on the same platform. Well, maybe there's something to driving it that I'm missing. I think it's about time Miles takes it away and talks about driving this car.
Okay, RS E-Tron GT. This does feel very familiar, just in the sense that this is a very fast, low to the ground electric sedan, one of the handful of cars that's going to be keeping up with something like a Model S Plaid in the real world. But I really just wanted to find out if this is just a copy and paste of the Taycan minus the differences like in horsepower. And the answer is yes, but also no. So the first big thing that makes this similar to a Taycan is the active ride system. This is basically a copy and paste of Porsche's active ride system, which is an electro-hydraulic system that basically controls each corner of the car individually to not only give you a super smooth ride, but it also is beneficial for performance-oriented driving scenarios. And I could say that part of the experience is more or less one-to-one with Taycan. Maybe my brain is just making stuff up, but I feel like the raising and lowering of the suspension might be just like a hair slower than what you have in the Taycan. I felt like that car always just immediately shot up for the comfort entry as soon as you walked up to the car and opened the door. This one feels just like a hair slower, but otherwise, as far as it being a super smooth ride with, generally speaking, low profile tires, it's more or less the same. The next thing is just general acceleration feel. So the Taycan has 1,000 and some change peak horsepower, but that's only when you're in like max boost launch control, like attack mode. Most of the time when you're driving around in like sport or sport plus mode and stabbing the throttle, it's gonna be like between 700 and 800 horsepower in the real world. And this is effectively the same. So when you don't have it in the boost mode, when you're not doing launch control, it generally speaking feels just as quick. Although it is winter, it's cold, and we're on tires that have not been that great in my experience, so I've seen the traction control light blink and blink a bunch just because grip has been an issue for this car, even on a perfectly dry day. But yeah, unless you're the type of person who likes to just like launch your car all the time or take your car to the drag strip or something like that, in normal driving scenarios, I will say this is basically gonna feel just as fast as the Taycan Turbo GT. Now, because of things like the carbon roof, weight is actually slightly down from the non-WISOC version of the Turbo GT. Can you really feel that in the real world, even on some twisty back roads like I'm on right now? No, not really. But it is a pro, I'll say that. That's a benefit. But man, just like the Turbo GT, you're having to brake pretty early going into the corners because it's big and heavy, but you can absolutely fly right out of the corners because you've got all this power instantly ready to be deployed. It's something. And I guess the other thing, right? Is it fun like the Taycan Turbo GT is? Fun, I guess? Well, I mean, yeah, for a high horsepower, fully electric car, I would say this is definitely on the fun side of things. I think you could take this up to Angeles Crest if that's something you like doing in your electric performance sedan or whatever your favorite back road is on a Sunday morning and have some fun for a good 20-30 minutes before you run out of range. Yeah, I'd say this is equally as fun for that. And especially if you haven't experienced the Taycan Turbo GT and have that basis of comparison. I would say that is probably the best way to experience this car is to not drive the Taycan Turbo GT, and you won't know what you're missing. The elephant in the room here is that this is cheaper than the Turbo GT, but it's certainly not a cheap car. To get the experience that puts this as close to the Turbo GT as possible, you have to spend $200,000. That gets you the active suspension. That gets you the carbon ceramic brakes. Those are things that the Taycan Turbo GT has as standard. That car is about $50,000 more. But if you have the money to spend 200 grand on a car that's gonna be worth probably half of that or less in like 2 years, is spending an extra 50 grand really that big of a stretch to get what is ultimately the better car? I don't think so. Not really. And I mean, you can already get Taycan Turbo GTs for under 250 grand on the used market with just a handful of miles on them. So you can theoretically spend this much and just get the better car. And so that's kind of where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with the RS E-Tron. It's a great Audi. In some ways, it's the most capable Audi to have ever existed because it's got so much power, it's so usable, it's extremely comfortable to daily drive, it's fun in dynamic scenarios, and equally as comfortable in situations where you want it to be. But the Taycan exists, and that car came first. I think the problem is that the Taycan Turbo GT came out before this car, which means you can now already get a depreciated one that costs just as much as this. So that kind of makes it a tough sell. The Taycan though. The Taycan though. I'm sorry. It's a good car though. Also, last thing, Audi. We gotta let the forged carbon thing go. We let you guys get it off with the Sesto Elemento, that was cool. Also the Huracan Performante, that was pretty decent, but on an electric sedan, the forged carbon, I don't think we're jacking that anymore.
If there is enough reason, enough uniqueness about this car to warrant spending the money, knowing it's going to depreciate, knowing you're spending $200,000 already, are there people in the chat that would actually buy the Audi over the Taycan Turbo GT? If so, let me know who you are and why. Maybe the Audi fan base is stronger than I think. Either way, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.